You are entitled to an attorney, but everybody needs to be arrested because they've just been causing so many things for decades. Since their inception, they have been nothing but a cesspool and a fourth arm of government that thinks that they can just do whatever they want to do. The Central Intelligence Agency has not been prosperous, nor has it been beneficial for the American people. It has only been a tool that can be used by those who want to undermine our government, period, the end. And going in and stealing government documents is just probably one thing that they know about. What about all the other stuff that they've been involved in? Yeah, it's crazy. It's insane. Now, the next article I want to get to, this is a questioning back and forth between Representative Omar and the Secretary of Education. Now, this is talking about the nursing degrees. And there's been a little bit of controversy about it when it happened. But what the Department of Education did, and I'll go into this a little bit more, is they took the degree out of the professional status. They're not saying that a nurse is not professional. They took the degree out of that status so that schools couldn't charge the amount for that degree, right? So let's just talk about a law degree or a medical degree, actually, right? Let's keep it to medical. So if someone's going to school to be a doctor, there is a particular professional degree that they need to get to attain to be a physician, right? Well, they had nursing degrees in that same category. By putting them in that same category, people were being overcharged for a nursing degree. So they took them out of that category so that nurses could still attain the degree without the cost. That's kind of the simple crux of the matter. Ilhan Omar's argument is, we don't have enough people going into nursing. You don't have enough people going into nursing because we've lost our humanity. And you really have to have some humanity to be a nurse because you're taking care of other people. Our children can't read or write at the level that they need to be a nurse, even a doctor. The educational system has failed the children that can be our future nurses and doctors. They can't read or write. They're only at a 5th grade reading level. You have to be at a high school level or above for a lot of these positions because of the linguistics involved, the medications. You have to know how to research. You have to understand what you're doing because you're administering, right, medications to these patients. You have to understand how to read charts. You have to understand how to read measurements so that you don't accidentally overdose a patient. You need the acumen. We do not have educated adults to do the work. But you're not talking about that part. You just want to have an argument with the Secretary of the Department of Education. But let's check this out.
Recognize the gentlelady from Minnesota, Ms. Omar.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Madam Secretary, sorry to belabor this. I know so many people on both sides of the aisle have asked you about the department's decision to remove nursing, teaching, social work, and other critical occupations from the definition of professional degrees and capping their ability to receive federal loans. I know that in my home state of Minnesota, we're expecting to face a shortage of 30,000 nurses in the next 4 years. And I know that your home state of North Carolina, it is expected to see a shortage of 13,000. Our nurses obviously are limited in their capacity, they're overworked, and they're worried. So I know you said the decision is final, but I'm just trying to figure out if you can answer why did you move forward with an action that you know is going to be creating a problem or worsening a problem that already exists?
Well, first of all, let me correct one thing. We did not remove any of these professions from a professional category. They were never characterized in the law, in the statute, as a professional category. So as these caps were put into place, and many professions were then being reviewed as to what constituted a professional category, guided by the definition of a professional degree from Congress. So that was the overview that we looked at as we were writing this new rulemaking, with the overall goal of putting caps in place that are going to reduce the cost of college.
How is that happening?
Well, I have a couple of articles here already that there are colleges.
What do they say?
They are saying that they are looking at reducing the cost of their graduate programs.
I know, but looking is not addressing the problem that we're currently seeing. What I am asking you is that you've made a decision that is currently making the problem worse.
That is not correct. Let me push back on that.
Are you saying the numbers in Minnesota that we're seeing or in North Carolina are not real?
Well, what I'm saying to you is there are shortages in those states, primarily in the undergraduate nursing program, which is not affected by this new rule and this new cap. Undergraduate programs are not affected at all by this
know,
cap.
but
These
can
are
you
only graduate programs?
You,
so the shortage is not a result of this cap being put on. The shortage of nursing is that we don't have enough applicants into the nursing programs that are coming through our universities.
So instead of helping with the problem, you've decided to make it worse?
I don't think you ran when I talked about another way to get to an RN, an expedited program. You can get a 2-year certificate and then take the exam to become an RN.
My sisters are nurses. I do know how those things work. I'm asking you about the specific classification that you created that lowers the cap.
We didn't remove them from a professional designation.
I know, but address the cap issue when it comes to the
I just did, because I said it does not impact.
But you said you were trying to lower the cost of tuition. How does that happen?
Because there are already colleges that are lowering the cost of their graduate programs. Because
what are those colleges?
There's a college in California, University of California in Irvine, and Purdue University in Indiana.
And is it for business or for nursing?
They have lowered them right now, and for their business programs.
Yeah, but we're talking about nursing, ma'am.
Well, I hope that they'll look at other programs to reduce the cost.
Business is not something that you had an impact on.
I don't have control over which programs they're doing, but if they have fewer applicants coming into their universities and they realize part of the reason is because their cost is too high, they will lower those costs.
I don't think that is how it works.
That is exactly how it works.
That is not how it works.
It is
your specific job your specific job is to try to make sure, as the head of the Department of Education, to make education accessible for Americans. When you create policies that make education unreachable for Americans that want that education, then you are failing at your job.
No, when there have not been caps on programs, and universities have been allowed to charge whatever they wanted, and the student loan program allowed them to borrow up to whatever that university said was the cost, it was time to take action and to put caps in place that are going to
but your caps only create a funnel through the private borrowing system.
That's not true.
Yes, that is what it will do. How else would somebody, if I wanted to get a professional degree and I'm capped and I can't borrow, then I have to, from a public source, then I have to go private. And that is what your administration is really trying to do, is trying to help enrich others on the backs of the American people. I yield back.
Okay. Okay. So, the U.S. Department of Education has not directly capped tuition on program costs for nursing degrees. Instead, it has implemented new federal student loan borrowing limits, right, for graduate programs, and that's effective this July. The explicit goal is to reduce overall college costs and student debt by limiting how much students can borrow federally. So let's just say the limit's $50,000 for a nursing degree, which is pretty outrageous, but let's just say it's that. Then that means the school is capped at $50,000 for that degree. Now, if a school is still charging more than $50,000, that's where the problem comes in. Why are you charging more than $50,000 when another school over here is charging $25,000 for the same degree? Right? Same degree. Why are you charging $50,000? Why are you charging $25,000? The caps are in place so people are not in egregious amounts of debt. Period. And they shouldn't be borrowing more for school, because if they are, you got to look at the school. Okay? It's the school. And a lot of schools have come under scrutiny. They have been sued, and they have gotten their doors closed. They have had their accreditations removed. Representative Omar, do your homework. But you don't want to do that. You want to have an argument, and you look interesting. And I'm looking forward to you being denaturalized, deported, and removed from Congress. Like, that's all I want for Christmas right now. Okay? So this creates market pressure on institutions to lower tuition as unlimited borrowing. Okay? Especially via the former grad plus loans had allowed schools to raise prices. So schools were basically milking these students and making money off of the federal government by doing it. But leaving these students with all of this debt that they can barely get out of once they achieve the job. It shouldn't be that way. Now, in the One Big Beautiful Bill, a final rise rule. So it's the elimination of grad plus loans. This previously allowed unlimited federal borrowing for graduate and professional students. That's why it was taken out of this category, especially for nurses, right? Which the department says fueled tuition inflation. Tiered loan limits based on whether a program qualifies as a professional degree. That's the problem. It's not that it's not a profession, it's the degree, right? So professional degrees narrowly defined as 11 specific fields: medicine, MD, dentistry, pharmacy, veterinarian medicine, law, optometry, osteopathic medicine, podiatry, chiropractic, clinical psychology, and theology, up to $50,000 per year and $200,000 in the aggregate. So all other graduate degrees, including nursing programs such as MSN, DNP, PhD in nursing, capped at $20,500 per year and $100,000 in the aggregate total. I think that's better than putting people in perpetual debt. So nursing is explicitly excluded from the higher professional degree category. The department argues this is based on statutory census definitions, not a judgment on the value of nursing. Nurses are still very much professional. They have what they call, the name is escaping me. You go to the doctor's office, you can see a nurse practitioner, right? Instead of your doctor. And they can work pretty much in the same capacity as a doctor. They're just working under the doctor. It's almost like a paralegal, right? When you're in a lawyer's office, that's how the nurse practitioners work. It's not belittling their profession. It's capping the cost that a college can charge them. That's all. And that's better for everybody in the long run, because people may see cost as a barrier to them even getting the education. But again, like I said, we're turning out people that have less than a 5th grade education in reading. How are they supposed to be nurses or doctors? This is why you don't have the applicants. They can't read or write. They probably can't even fill out an application to go to school. Yeah, this is why your numbers are low, but you don't want to look at that. We are turning out an entire generation of illiterate people here in a country where we spend more per capita per person on education. And our children can't read or write. Hey, but they can tell you their program. Yeah. The indoctrination needs to stop. We need to get back to education, period. Now, institutions can set even lower pragmatic caps if they choose to better align the program outcomes and earnings potential. So, put it this way. If your profession is going to garner you after you graduate $80,000 a year, in my opinion, you shouldn't be paying more than $20,000 a year for your degree. Right? The degree should at least, at some point, it's not going to guarantee you, but it should at least give you the potential earnings of an $80,000 job. Then that way you can pay off the degree without, struggling. Right? It should be a fourth of whatever the outcome is for the job potential. That's where I'm at. But nobody's really looking at those rates. They just assume, just like the the Secretary of Education was saying, we cannot force these colleges to do it, but we can put caps in place so that they will be held accountable to it. Right? Now, the Department of Education stated rationale. Department data shows 95% of nursing students and a high percentage of graduate nursing students already borrow below the new annual limits. So most are not affected. So why would we even have this conversation, Ilhan? The remaining high-cost programs will be incentivized to reduce tuition to maintain enrollment, preventing students from taking on unmanageable debt. This is part of a broader package, including simplified repayment options aimed at lowering college costs across the board, right? And they've been doing this for a long time because there are professions that you can go into, like teaching. There are certain nursing and doctor degrees and other degrees that you can go into where you can work for nonprofit organizations and have your student loan debt lowered, right? Or almost paid off. Here's the kicker though. If you do that, you still have to pay the taxes on that tuition. So it's almost like, okay, we'll pay it down to say you've got $95,000, right? In student loans. They'll pay down the $95,000, right? So you don't